Welcome to Front of Book Texas. I'm Christy Ramirez. Conversations with the creators and icons driving lifestyle and culture today. From Texas to the world, timeless, untamed. Texas creativity, global influence. I can't wait for you to hear today's interview. We're talking to one of the most powerful voices in fashion, Head of Editorial Content for Vogue Mexico and Latin America, El Paso's Karla Martinez. Here's what I love about Karla. She's created an incredible editorial career, working for legends like Grace Coddington, Stefano Tonki, and yes, Anna Wintour. But she's one of the most down-to-earth, zero-ego people I know. And that paired with her endless curiosity and her there are no dumb questions attitude are her superpowers. And it goes without saying that she's incredibly chic. We chat about why high standards at the office are paramount, what it takes to get a job at Vogue today, and of course, her go-to spots when she's back home in West Texas. She's based in Mexico City, but she's from El Paso. She's a wife, she's a mom to twin daughters, and she's one of the most powerful Latina voices on the global fashion front, which is insane. Tell us, Karla, about growing up in El Paso.
I'm really excited to be here with you guys. Mid-'80s, we moved to El Paso, and my mom was like, there were 3 of us at the time, and my mom said to us, girls, people here speak Spanish, so you can't talk about anyone in Spanish anymore because you can't use your Spanish code words because everyone will understand me. And I have to say, like, I remember kind of El Paso it was kind of like the forgotten city of Texas in a way.
How old were you when you guys moved? How old were you when you got to El Paso?
I was going into 3rd grade. Okay. So it was like not a tree in sight. Everything was brown, like the mountains, the dirt, the dust storms, the tumbleweed. My parents are from Mexico, and we would always go back to Mexico to see her family. But moving to El Paso, we were right next to Mexico. And I remember my mom being like really excited that she could like just cross the bridge and be in Juárez. And she would go like grocery shopping. She would go buy her magazines. And it was kind of like really like a homecoming in a way. But, my parents had moved to the U.S. like 10 years prior. And my dad was a doctor. And so he started his life in the U.S. as like really immigrants. And so we finally moved to El Paso, and we have this like super welcoming community with like everyone's bilingual.
Yeah,
right?
like Laredo and Harlingen, even if you're Caucasian or any other, race, you speak some Spanish. This is kind of like a common thread of talking to a lot of people is, you grow up in these cities in Texas and then you leave, and it's not until you get a little bit older that you start to appreciate where you really come from. But when you were growing up in El Paso, and I mean, like these are very formative years, from 3rd grade on until you went to college, what did you guys do for fun in El Paso?
In high school, we would go to like the desert and do bonfires for fun. We would go to like the dunes that were like in and around, of course, people's houses. Then we started getting like cool concerts at the Sun Bowl, like the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd.
Oh my gosh.
You know what the Sun Bowl is? It's like the UTEP Stadium.
Yes.
Now like Coldplay played for 3 days. And now I think it's funny because I think bands are starting to realize that they get a lot of like all of like New Mexico,
all the northern Mexicans
like,
coming
all the
in.
Northern Mexicans like flying into El Paso just to like see some music, which I thought was really cool. What else did we do?
Did you guys go over to Juarez all the time? It's so different now. You can't just kind of like go over.
No, but I think starting at like 15, 16.
Yeah. Like just popping over, like going to some bars, hanging out.
Yes, going to some bars, going to dance. All you needed to have was an ID that said you were 18. I don't know where we got them. I don't even think we were carded in some of the places.
You definitely were not. You definitely were.
We would go park downtown, walk across the bridge, go to like the Kentucky Club, and come back.
Is the Kentucky Club, is that a place in Juarez?
The Kentucky Club is a place in Juarez that actually they say that the margarita was invented. And I'm Googling literally like the world famous Kentucky Club. They say that the margarita was invented there. Juarez, I don't know if you've heard of this, but my brother-in-law's father was a lawyer in Juarez at the time. And when in the US you couldn't get quick divorces, you had to go somewhere to get a divorce. Like Elizabeth Taylor
Yes,
went to
I was just
Juarez
about to
get a
say,
divorce.
yes, this is where like famous people would go to get like a quick divorce.
Exactly. And so, like for some reason, Juarez became famous for like quick divorces. And so my sister's husband's father, my sister's father-in-law, like divorced I don't know how many people. So they would go over to Juarez. And this was, remember when like before like the big kind of war on drugs from 2008,
Yeah.
2009 caused so much violence, people were like
Well,
went
it
to
was
Juarez
just,
all the time.
yes, and it was safe. I mean, you guys were going over there when you were teenagers, and your parents didn't really think much of it because, like you said, like your mother would go over, she would buy her magazines, she would go grocery shopping, she would do all the things, and I think that was such a common thing to do. Not so much anymore, but that kind of just being able to like walk over, that way of life is kind of gone now. Like you're really not able to do that
Yeah.
anymore, which is kind of sad because it is kind of interesting when you're in El Paso and you can see it's like going through Big Bend when you're on the Texas side and you can see Mexico over there and you're like, it's right there. Like it's
Absolutely. It's
right
right
there.
there. Like, I don't think people understand that. The girls from my school came over from Juarez.
Yeah.
You know, like they would cross the bridge, they would have to leave like an hour earlier. And it was before like the global entry sentry lines where now you have like sentry and you just cross like the bridge is not very, the lines aren't very long, but they would come over to school. And at one point before like daylight savings or like during like Juarez would change times. So like they were with the rest of Mexico. So like if it was, when the time changed, like they would need to leave 2 hours earlier just to
Yeah.
get to school on time. I just grew up with such a mix of nationalities around, like Latino nationalities. And I was talking about the other day, but yet, a lot of people when I moved to Mexico City would say, "Oh, you're moving back to Mexico." I'm like, actually, I never lived in Mexico, but I grew up in El Paso, which is
But I
not
mean,
Mexico.
yes, and your Spanish is so beautiful. I wonder, like, even we'll get to the part about you working at Vogue, but I do want to get to this. It's so different. Like I'm Mexican American, but when I go to Mexico, I am definitely American, right? And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter like about my descent, and like like it is. You are American. Like they will never even look at me as like even part Mexican, because I was born here and because my family's been here for a few generations. I'm wondering, even like when you move to Mexico and you're married to a Mexican.
Yes. But it's funny because my husband's mother was born in the U.S. Like her entire family is American, and they moved to Mexico for her father's job. My husband has like the thickest accent in English that my daughters make fun of him. They're like, "Why do you speak English with such an accent like that?" So it's kind of like the reverse, and yeah, and it's still interesting because like so many people speak English and they're like confused,
Yeah.
they don't, it like sets them off. It's
Yeah.
funny, they're like, why do you speak English so well?
So you went to U of A. And
Yes,
but when you got there though, did you major in journalism? Did you know that you wanted to
I did
major in
not.
journalism?
I I feel like I don't know, like I was not, aside from my mom bought like Vanidades and Hola and Juarez, but
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know like who the journalists were. Like I
Yeah.
didn't grow up in a house, like we grew up like reading and my dad read all his like medical textbooks, but they weren't never talking about like magazine editors. My dad was like, do whatever you want, but I really think you should probably do a business major just because you don't know what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's a good major. So I majored in marketing. I kind of regret not doing journalism. I majored in marketing. And I remember like my sophomore year, my friend Loretta Armendariz was like, her mom worked at like the only store in El Paso where you could get like Escada, Moschino, Nicole
Oh yeah.
Miller, those
Yeah.
brands. And she was like, oh, my mom got me an internship at Nicole Miller. And I was like, oh my God, I'm such a loser. Like, what am I going to do? What's my dad going to get me? Nothing, because he's a doctor. And so I just started calling magazines and seeing if I could intern somewhere. And this girl picked up the phone at AFA showroom, which was at the time had Moschino, Narciso Gautier, Alberta Ferretti. And she said to me, "You're from Tucson? You live in Tucson? I'm from Tucson. Come up for an interview." So
wow.
I
That was
went up for an
helpful.
interview. I always say this because my mom was like, "You're going where for an interview?" Like my mom is like really like was very conservative and like very like, how's my like 18-year-old
Concerned.
daughter
Yeah.
gonna go up to New York by herself? So I stayed at a family friend's child's apartment, like this young couple, and I like went and crashed on their sofa. And I went to my interview and I got the internship, and so I moved to New York for the summer. And
I
which is
mean,
funny.
was your mom freaking out that you moved to New
Yes, they were like,
York?
"You're going where?" And so I lived in New York for the summer at like my parents' family friend's house. This like older Jewish man from Cuba that was like 80 years old, and he rented out a room. Me and my friend Audrey Ponzio, who went to UT, was at UT at the time, we both lived there. He kind of showed us the ropes and like in Washington Heights, which is so funny.
Oh my God.
It was just like the best summer of my life because that's where I learned kind of what I wanted to do and how big the fashion industry was. Because like growing up in El Paso, even in in Dallas, you have like Market,
Yes.
you have Neiman Marcus, you have like, you kind of get the idea of what you can do in fashion, right?
Yes, but in El Paso you didn't have any of that stuff. So I'm
Any
sure
of
that when you got to New York, were you just like, what? Was it the first time you had been to New York, or had you been there before with your family?
I think I'd been there once with my family, but I knew nothing
So
about New
you
York.
get to New York, you're living in Washington Heights with an 80-year-old Jewish man as his roommate and your friend. You are doing your internship, and I'm sure your entire world kind of cracked open of like, what is this? I mean, I can't imagine what was going on in your head.
Like it was actually nuts. I mean, I remember being across from like Radu Jim and running into Cindy Crawford. It was like New York in the 90s. So
The
like
best time.
we were looking through like all the magazines and like going out to places like Moomba and Balthazar and Pastis and like all these like super cool places with like all these amazing like fashion designers around. And I remember there seeing, okay, this is the fashion industry. Like this is the sales part and the PR part, but is there more? And then this editor walked in and she worked at W and she's like, "I'm here to pull clothes for a shoot." And I was like, "Someone has this as a job?" And so she's like, "Yes, I work at W. Please, apply for an internship next year." So the next year I applied at W. It was just crazy to be in New York, like at that time.
That is so wild to me that you picked up the phone and somebody answered and you're like, "Hi, I want to apply for an internship."
Isn't
Like,
that nuts?
That's just crazy. And so because you were at that internship, you met an editor at W. She's pulling clothes for a photo shoot. You're kind of like, what is that job? That sounds really cool. So you end up getting this internship the next year at W, which is where you ended up working at one point.
Yeah.
But when you got to W for that internship, was that the time where you were like, this is what I want to do for a career. I want to be in magazines.
100%. Like I was like, that closet assistant job was like my dream job, like literally. Yeah. And it paid like $22,000. And so then after that I graduated, but I didn't get to go abroad because it wasn't like the right time financially for my parents. And so I begged them to move to Paris, after graduation. And so I moved to Paris after I graduated. And also there, a friend of mine was working at LA Models. And she was like, "I know someone at IMG, call them." So I interned at IMG and made like, I don't know, it was like francs, like very, like the equivalent in francs.
Francs, not even euros, francs.
$300. Yes. And then I interned at Hearst Magazines, which was had like a beautiful office on Avenue Montaigne. And that was like Harper's Bazaar, Town and Country, Cosmo, Marie Claire, and God, I can't remember the fifth one. House Beautiful. I couldn't get French papers. Yeah. It's like super hard. And so my dad was like, "Enough is enough. You need to move where you can get a job, a full paying one."
Yeah.
And so I moved to New York in 2000. And I went to interview at Condé Nast, and the HR woman that had been at W hired me.
No way.
Yeah,
Kidding. She was there?
she was there because Condé Nast had bought W at that time. So they were sold, they used to belong to Disney. And so I went to work for Mademoiselle, which you remember that magazine?
Yes, yes. Oh my
It
God.
was such
yes.
a great magazine.
Such a great magazine.
And then I worked there for a couple months and I got called to work at Elle. And then I remember getting a call from Vogue right around that time God, I can't remember what cover had come out at the time, but I got a call in November of saying they're looking for an assistant at Vogue. The woman that works there can't keep an assistant. So like they've asked me to help them find someone. So
okay, but when you heard like the woman can't keep an assistant, were you a little like, I don't care, I'll do whatever it takes to get
I was like,
foot.
I'll do whatever it takes. Like my boss at Elle was also super tough too. Like everyone I'd ever worked for had been like really demanding. And I was like, I'm used to this.
Yeah.
You know, I'll work really hard. I can do it. So I went and interviewed with Wendy, who was looking for an assistant, and Wendy's assistants. And then they sent me in with Grace Coddington. And I was so nervous.
Were you freaking out? Did you sleep the night before? Like how do you even prepare to meet Grace Coddington?
I don't even remember. I don't remember what I was wearing. I just remember being incredibly nervous and her asking me like, you know, why do you want to work here? Do you know that you work weekends here? Do you have a boyfriend? Where does your family live? Like
all the things you
basically, do you have a life?
Yes,
you know, or are you willing to like give it all up for working here? And at the time, like I didn't have a lot going. I mean, I had my friends and we would go out on the weekends, but I was like fully ready to give it all to work there. And so my interview apparently went really well. And they were like, the next step is to meet with Anna. And so I went to meet with Anna Wintour. And I was kind of freaking out there. I remember I had, you know, I've always been a little bit of a shopaholic, and I would always like charge a thing here and there on my parents' credit card and then get screamed at.
Yes, we all did.
Because my mom was like not buying anything over $100. I'll tell you that. Like, and I bought like an Olivier Teskin skirt in Paris that I had and some Pierre Hardy shoes. And I went to Bergdorf Goodman and bought a sweater that I was like, I'll return it.
I just need something for the interview. Yeah.
I didn't want to wear all black. And like, there was no Zara. I had to go to Bergdorf. So I went and bought a sweater. And I remember she was late and she was so apologetic. She was like 5 minutes late. And, but for her, that's really late. And, you know, I remember just feeling like so nervous and wondering like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like straightening my hair.
Oh my gosh.
And borrowing my roommate's coat. And I don't know what I did or said, but I remember they called me to tell me that I had gotten the job.
I mean, did you scream? Did you call your friends first? Did you call your mom? I mean, getting your foot in the door at Vogue is so hard. I mean, so much harder now too. Like,
I know.
You like won the lottery.
I just remember being so excited. Like I started in January 2002. And I really, and Wendy, my boss at the time, was wonderful. And she was a great mentor. The way that things were ran at Vogue, where it was kind of like a master's in a way, you could say.
Yeah.
And I learned so much because a lot of the other places I had worked had like the freelance stylists that kind of came in and out. But here you had 5 full-time stylists. You had like Grace Coddington, Tawny Goodman, Phyllis Posnick, Camilla Nickerson, and Elisa Santisi. And all those women were there all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had run-throughs and we had to get the clothes for them. And each had very much a different personality. So it was kind of learning how to navigate.
Yeah, each of those big personalities with their own points of view. Everything's in-house. I mean, God, I just can't even imagine the amount of work. And of course, like, everybody loves Devil Wears Prada. They love the new movie that's just come out, the sequel. And when you look at that movie, I mean, is it very much like how it is when you're there? I mean, you are just on
Well,
24/7, or
yeah, I think that on 24/7, the little bit, the franticness of like, we have a run through. Is everything here? Like, Grace is waiting for look 52. Those things were like
Yeah.
very dramatic, and we would do anything we needed to do to like get whichever editor what they wanted and when they wanted it. And we would hang on to clothes for like 2 weeks. I mean, the whole process of getting things, for your listeners who don't know what I'm talking about, like we would, shoot things we would have a story with like Stephen Meisel, a cover shoot with Halle Berry, for example. That I remember Annie Leibovitz shooting, but we would call in clothes from the different designers. And the way it works is most of the time you get it the day before your shoot, you show the editor, you take it on the shoot and you return it. And at Vogue, it needed to come in like a week before the shoot because the editor had to plan it out in her head. They had to present it to Anna. Anna had to give it the okay. If it wasn't okayed, we had to call in something new.
And this is the kind of power that Vogue had, is that they were able to keep clothes out for this long. And the whole point of like needing to return the clothes is so other magazines could pull them. Right.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
But you had the power to keep them for as long as you needed, because if they were going to make it in Vogue, that could completely
They
change.
had to be there for the run through. I think what I learned there was just that fashion, obviously, as you see in the movie, isn't just clothes. It's it's an entire kind of ecosystem of an industry, and everything was important. And then I got a call to work at the New York Times under Stefano Tonki to work for T magazine, which he had just gotten there. And it was kind of really different for me because it was working at a place where fashion kind of wasn't the end all be all.
What's so great about your career is like even working with IMG, like I'm sure that when you were on those shoots, like understanding that whole landscape and what that looks like on that side of like the modeling side, and then working on the fashion side, and then be able to work somewhere at New York Times where, not that Vogue isn't journalistic, but it's very focused on journalism, and a wider kind of, range of topics there. And so I feel like you've just had such an amazing career in so many different areas, whether it's like super fashion focused or super journalism focused, or a little bit of both. And then to go, and I know that like from the New York Times magazine, how long were you there, Karla?
I was there for 5 years. And I always say it was like my first kind of adult job because I was a market director.
I mean, I know that your dad, your late father, was a super successful doctor, and you grew up in a house that really valued education. But I'm wondering, like, did you know, and had you always kind of been this way as a child, of like really driven to be like, I need to know what else is out there. I need to learn more. Were you always kind of curious about?
I was always curious.
Yeah.
Like my mom's friends used to say, like, "Ay, Carlita, siempre bien preguntona." Like that,
Yeah.
like her Chile,
Oh, yes.
like they always used to say that I asked so many. I've always asked so many questions. I've always been really interested in where you're from, what you do, where you went to school, not for any like social climbing reason, just because I was genuinely curious.
Interested, yeah.
I think like I love people. I love like meeting new people from different walks of life, and that are different than me, that are smarter than me. I've always tried to, like, especially when hiring people, I always want people that know more than I do.
For sure. Yeah.
And that, like, my dad always used to say, listen, I'm a doctor. I am not going to leave you. Like, if you want to leave you my practice, but you have to go to medical school. Like, I'm not leaving you like a company that you're going to run, or, a trust fund you can use. Like, this is it. Like, this is your school, maybe a house, that your mom was going to live in, And my dad passed away really young. So I kind of learned that really fast. And I remember, like, now that I see kids like here in my office, like in Mexico, it's different because you do live with your parents up until you like move. Like a lot of them move in with their parents after college, and they like fully live with their parents until they move out when they get married.
Right.
That's changing. I've seen it change in the past couple of years, but like I couldn't like if I didn't have a job in New York, like I couldn't afford to quit. Like if
Yeah.
someone spoke to me in a way that I didn't like them to, like I had to stay in my job and
And that's what
survive.
that is what I mean, I'm curious to hear like what you see now because you have I mean you're in this very, very powerful position and you got there with a lot of hard work and working for really, really, as you said, like demanding women.
Demanding and successful women that I always looked up to that like had kids, were moms, they
Yeah.
were wives, they were girlfriends. Some of them were single, great, and they were so successful, which is exciting that my kind of view was always so female.
Right. And so now when, as in your position now at Vogue, do you see, like you said, like you couldn't leave your job if somebody yelled at you or said this wasn't done right, or I need it better, or I need 3 more pairs of shoes, or whatever it was. Do you see a difference now in the young people around you, not just at Vogue, but like anywhere, in their in like work ethic? I just feel like so much has changed. And listen, a lot of it is for the better. I mean, a lot of it is for the
Exactly.
better.
Yes.
Um, but I also just wonder sometimes because of social media and because of just how different the world is now, what do you see from younger people and
I
around?
definitely see them more, as I was saying, like I remember, one of the girls here said, "Oh, I'm leaving." I think especially now in the digital sphere,
Hmm.
you have, I mean, like someone like Karl Lagerfeld dies on a Saturday and you have to work.
Yeah.
And I think some people don't want to work on a Saturday, or some people don't want to come into the office. So they are like, you know what, I'm going to take a job that's more flexible on
Right.
hours. And I don't know if it's because they live with their parents and they don't need, they have that safety net, or if it's just they feel like they can get another job quicker. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if you've seen that. I feel like I see it in Mexico because a lot of people might live with their families,
Hmm.
and like especially the younger ones, like before
Yeah.
like pre-30. Um, or if it's just like this is not what I want to do and I'm going to find something different, and they just are a little bit, they
Yeah.
put their foot down more.
Yeah, I think there's boundary, and again, like I think some of it is really good, but
Boundaries.
I also think that it's like there is something to be said about having a really hard boss asking you to do things that you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be working until 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, or I am going to be working on the weekends. I mean, some of the stuff that I did when I was at D Magazine, like I I mean, HR should have been called like a million times, but I never would have in a million years, like ever. It's just like, I want to be an editor. Like, I'm going to go and get Wick Allison a tuna fish sandwich from Neiman Marcus downtown and his iced tea from Dickies and his Fritos from 7-Eleven. And I'm going to
And
have it
fast.
and I'm going to do it fast. I'm going to get it there by 12 o'clock because if not, I'm going to get yelled at. And guess what? Like, it really, I think, was so good for me to like have to like jump through the crazy hoops that I had to jump through. And I think the same for you. So I think in my opinion, I think that there's a little bit that has been lost. I mean, listen, nobody should be
Yes,
abused. Nobody should be
exactly.
abused.
I have the same conversation. I kind of go back and forth with it because, I have a chat with my friend, and one of my friends who works in New York at a magazine said that her assistant texted her on Friday and was like, "I'm sorry, I took a personal day and
Yeah.
I'll get back to you on Monday." She's like, "Our shoot is on Monday." And, I'm like, I told her that, but you have to be careful because now you can get in trouble for
Yes. Yeah. It's
like demanding that someone answer you. I mean, I answer unless I'm like, I don't know, I haven't had an emergency where I haven't been able to answer someone's call. But even when I've been on vacation with my kids, like,
I'm always on.
especially if Anna emails me, but you better believe I'm going to email her back like within 5 minutes,
Yeah.
even
And
if
this
I'm
is
on vacation.
Yeah, and this is the reason you have the job that you have. You've put in the hard work, and so I don't know. It's always an interesting. I'm always kind of interested to hear what other people have to say about
I
it because
know.
some people feel really strongly that like one way or the other. So, um,
I'm on the fence. as you said, I don't think anyone should be like abused, mentally or fit that, you have to draw the line since always. And I kind of never felt like I was in a really awful situation with someone like screaming. And I remember the one time that an editor screamed at me, a fashion stylist, my boss at the New York Times, Ann Christensen, picked up the phone and like called him back and was like, "Don't you ever scream at anyone on my, so, but I think I think things have changed for the better, especially in terms of like, modeling, that 8 models and like when you hear of those kinds of things or people that, if you're not paying them and, I think there's some things that are
a lot better now.
A lot better now.
Do you, so you've been in your position now for 10 years. Like it's 10 years this year, right? Like you're celebrating a decade.
Yeah, it was 10 years in May.
I mean,
that's a long time.
And
They're
so,
at my daughter's age.
That's crazy. I mean, that's also kind of nuts that your daughters are 10 years old now.
I know.
I feel like it was just yesterday.
And your daughter just graduated, didn't she?
Yeah, she just graduated in May, which is nuts. And so I won't have any kids in the house.
Congratulations.
I know. I'm kind of excited. I think it'll be fun. She's excited. I'm excited for her. But like, tell me, like you've seen so many changes. I mean, I'm forever a print person. I love print so much. I still love to pick up a magazine. I still get my Sunday New York Times and sit in my bed on Sunday and go through, from the very beginning to the very end of it. And there's been so much change in the editorial space around print and around digital, and your even your editor-in-chief title has now changed to its director of content. So tell us a little bit about like what that looks like for you, because it is true that when somebody looks at your Instagram, you are everywhere all the time, and it's not just content for Vogue. I feel like it is content for Vogue, but it's also your content and like a look at what you're doing in your role. And there's so many behind the scenes moments. I mean, it just feels like you're constantly on. So what does that kind of look like for you in your job when you're thinking about, here's this story and how you're deploying it out on social media, different, I just feel like there's so many different tributaries for all of this stuff to be deployed.
Right. Well, I feel like that the role has changed so much, right? Like we used to we still produce, 12 issues, almost 12 issues a year. It kind of changes, plus some supplements. And we also do Mexico and Latin America, which are different. Like they're different, physically different.
How many physical magazines are you putting out a year then, if you're doing
24.
24.
24
yeah, between the two.
We do a Mexico issue and we do a Latin America issue.
Okay.
Sometimes we don't have a Latin America issue for like in August, but this year we do, which is good news. That's always good. More issues.
More issues, more advertising. That's great.
Exactly. But, when I first started, we were doing print and we were doing website, and we were really, working on engaging our audience online and getting kind of clicks on the website, right? And then, there was obviously social was super important. Events were kind of like 20% of what we did. And now I have to say events are almost like 50% of what we do.
No way.
And, obviously our digital content is something that we're producing like 3 to 6 pieces daily, every single day, 365 days a year. Last week, for example, we went to an event in LA that Jessica Alba was doing. So it's like event coverage. Vogue wasn't involved in it, but we still covered the event. Then, I came home and we had an event with, now I feel like we've had so many, with a Spanish brand called Suarez, so we'll do like a lunch, host, different women, like a lot of these kind of collaborations that we do with brands, like is a lot of clienteling in a way. So it's like a dinner with Valentino in Monterrey a few months ago. So it's kind of like changes. Like we do like talks at a, different.
I've seen you do a lot of talks.
A lot of talks. So it's just like, a lot of video content we did one last week with Ryan Castro, who just released an album with J Balvin. 2 weeks ago in Miami, we participated in Miami Swim Week. So we organized, 10 different designers from Latin America to do a runway show. So it really has changed so much from, what I used to see as a traditional, when I used to see like Anna as an editor-in-chief. Yes, she was hosting the Met, and yes, she was meeting with brands, and, they were bringing her the book every single day to like look through a Vogue, the book that you see in the movie. And, but she wasn't until later looking at online content, so I feel like that's something that has really changed. I mean, even now we're talking about people working on the weekends. Now we have an editor that just works the weekend. So she works from Thursday to Tuesday. And that way there's less burnout.
That's so smart.
Kind of like a 24/7 role in a way.
Yeah, and so that's where the change in title comes from, because it is director of content, because it's so many different avenues. What's your favorite part of your job right now?
I still get so excited when, we just shot our September cover, and just like kind of bring, like, from the moment where the editor comes and says, this is my idea, this is what we're going to do, this is the photographer we're going to work with. And then, everything leaves, the clothes. And, she just sent me the pictures this morning, and then you see them and they're really excited. Or, I love kind of releasing a cover and talking about what we did, like, to make that cover happen. Like how for June, for example, we did like a soccer special that we shot one of the soccer players, Santiago Jimenez, from the team, and, what that was like. And that I do. And I also just love meeting our readers. I think there's something so exciting about, like, when you give a talk, or especially when we go to like other cities, and somewhere that's like not Mexico City, which is kind of like Dallas or New York, that's like super big and kind of the center of the universe here. But when you go somewhere and meet people that are like really reading Vogue online, or on or physically, or just following you, and like are so curious about how everything works in a way.
Well, it's such a storied publication, right? I mean, when you think of fashion, you always think of Vogue. It's kind of like where the buck stops when it comes to fashion publications. So to be at the head of that, it's always just kind of fascinating, I think, to anybody that's like on the outside. I mean, even to me, I worked in magazines, but I certainly wasn't. I mean, I was at Condé Nast for a little while as a freelancer, but to hear all of these stories from you, I mean, it's like such a hard industry to be in, and the longevity that you've had in your career is just so like deeply, deeply impressive. Do your kids know what you do? Do the girls know what you do?
Kind of.
What do they think you do?
I think, they know I work at Vogue, and, they said to me the other day, Mama, do you know what a brand trip is? And I was like, yeah.
From social media.
Media, and from like, they don't have phones, but they obviously steal mine. So, they're aware of, unboxing. And
do you see in either one of them, like, does one of them over the other, or do both of them like really love clothes? Do they really like to get dressed? Do they go into your closet? Like, are you seeing any little glimpse of that?
A little bit. They're really into beauty, which is, I think, like
that's a very thing. That's so interesting that they're into
not
beauty.
Clothes, kind of. I always, try, like, I always take them to the store, and like, this is something I never had when, like, I was one of four. So like, my mom did not take us to the store and say like, what do you guys want to get? It would be like, you're going for shoes, we're getting sneakers. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And like, it's going to be one, and they better be on sale.
Yeah.
And my daughter, I'm like, oh, we'll be at Zara, and I'll get girls like pick out an outfit, and they're like, oh, I just need a t-shirt. I'm like, what?
Oh my
Thank
God.
God for me. But that's like so unheard of, Like,
well,
I
just
remember,
give it a minute. Maybe
I know.
It's going to change.
It might change. They're 10, so it might change. But I remember what I went through to get those first pair of Guess jeans. Remember the zip ones?
Oh my God, Karla, in 1986, I was in the 6th grade and my dad got me a pair of skinny leg. They zipped in the back at the ankle, size 12. I was still like in the juniors, the girls department. So it was like, whatever. When I opened that and I saw that triangle on the back of that, I cried. It was Christmas 1986. I cried when I got them. I could not believe that I had gotten a pair of Guess jeans. They were
And I wanted the pink ones so bad. I remember he was like, I just got you the denim ones. Be quiet.
Wait, I have a story to tell you about jeans. My mother, this is so funny. Remember Jordache jeans? Like in the 4th grade, I wanted Jordache jeans so badly. And remember how the edges were frayed at the hem? Like that was the thing. They were frayed at the end. My mom got me a pair of Jordache jeans and she hemmed them. So she gave them back to me. She was like, your jeans are ready. And I was like, I can't wear this so. Are you kidding me? Like I am going to be the laughing stock. You hemmed the frayed part of the Jordache. Like, it's horrible.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was. I feel like it was just like a mom thing to do, right?
Total, yes, absolute mom thing to do. Karla, when you get to El Paso, what's the first place you want to go to eat?
Oh my God. The first thing I want to eat in El Paso is chile con queso. That's not correct. When I usually arrive in the morning. And so the first thing I want to do is go get a burrito. So sometimes my mom will pick me up in Juárez, and she'll either already have the burrito from Cristostomo or from this other woman who's super famous. But my mom gets mad at her because she makes her wait. My mom calls and is like, I'm going to pick up the burritos. And she gets there. She's like, she never has them ready. I can't go back. And so now she just goes to the Cristostomo drive-through and will get them for me. And
wait, who's the lady that makes you wait? What's the famous burrito place?
Oh my God, I need to ask them. Hold on. I think she was in the New York Times.
No, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that your mom has beef with her.
I think her name is Patti.
Okay.
And
I want to look it up. Are you ready for a rapid fire?
Yes.
This or that? Okay, Karla Martinez. Okay. Barbecue or Tex-Mex?
Tex-Mex.
Galveston or the Hill Country?
I don't like picking up ribs.
Yeah, you got to like getting messy. Galveston or the Hill Country?
The Hill Country.
September, Texas State Fair or spring rodeo season?
Spring rodeo. I'm dying to go.
It is super fun. East Texas piney woods or the West Texas desert?
West Texas. Far West Texas.
Yes. I know. It's funny. Every time we've asked that question, everybody says West Texas. Tito's or Lalo?
Lalo.
Yes. Fort Worth or Dallas?
Dallas.
Miranda Lambert or Casey Musgraves?
Casey Musgraves.
Luke or Owen?
I love Casey Musgraves. She also loves Mexico.
She does love Mexico. I know. Did you see that she brought those mariachi boys on stage with her in green a couple of weeks ago?
Awesome.
She's so great. Okay, Luke or Owen Wilson?
Owen.
Dazed and Confused. So Richard Linklater or Bottle Rocket, Wes Anderson?
Dazed and Confused.
It's so funny. And here's the big one. Big Red or Dr. Pepper?
Big Red. I haven't had a soda in 10 years, so I'm not the best one.
I'm not surprised with you and all the yoga. I just had a Big Red maybe 6 weeks ago in Austin, and it was delicious. Who knows what's in it, but it was so good.
God knows.
I know. Karla, thank you so much for taking the time out of your crazy schedule to talk to Front of Book Texas, to talk to me. It's just always so fun to see you. I hope you come into town. I'm going to try to figure out some.
Thank you. And I love the name Front of Book.
Of course, because you're a print girl. You're a magazine girl.
Genius.
This has been Front of Book Texas. We've got a new conversation every 2 weeks, so don't just listen. Subscribe, follow, and share. I want to thank my executive producer, Georgiana Moreland. Front of Book Texas. Texas creativity, global reach.